Debbie Mead. I am so happy to have you here for our coffee conversation. We were wanting to do better together coffee conversations, as I shared with you before you agreed to do this talk with me. So Debbie, tell me quickly who's in your family and what groups you've been a part of as a leader or in a life group.
Okay. Jim is my husband and Josh is our son, and Josh is 30. And I have been in Sunrise for 29 years since I've moved to Kearney. And then my life group is Randy Erickson is our leader. And I'm a deaconess. And
you're going to lead another study on Monday nights for the semester.
That's right. I'm leading that. And then we are, a friend and I are leading a new beginners group that we led people to Christ. And so now we're doing a Bible study with them. And that's about it.
Great. Well, I know I've been to the church. I've been a part of this church, Kearney E-Free, for a lot less time than you have been there. But I have felt very welcomed by you, and I've seen the way that you really embrace the people that walk through the doors, and you just say, welcome to the family, and I've seen you do that in so many ways. So
thank you.
I appreciate you. And I didn't introduce myself yet. I'm Carrie Carpenter, and I'm the director of the Women's Ministry and Care Ministries at Kearney E-Free. Just for the last year. It's been almost a year, and it's just been my privilege to be able to do that and to know amazing women like you, Debbie. And I just wanted to remind everybody about our mission. First our vision, that every person matters. And again, I see that displayed in the way that you treat people. And then our mission at Kearney E-Free, do you remember what it is? I'll start it if you want.
Okay, you start it.
Okay. Building a transformational community.
I really
I'm
don't
always
remember.
doing this quiz.
I really don't remember.
By growing in love with Christ and all people.
Okay.
So again, you are just living that out and demonstrating it. So whether you say the exact words or not, the important thing, you're living it.
Okay, good.
You're living it out.
Okay.
So start with a hard question here. What is your favorite coffee drink?
Probably, I really just like regular coffee with sugar and creamer.
Okay. I like my black coffee. Well, no, it's not really black. I like my coffee with cream too. That's my favorite coffee drink.
Yeah. It really is. Yeah.
And now we're meeting in the afternoon, so
I just have water.
Yes, you're detoxifying with your water. Good job.
Yes.
Okay, so that was the hard question there. Now I'm going to ask you some questions about just your story.
Okay.
So, actually, right before you share your story, I wondered if I know you and I both have had conversations in the past about really enjoying finding out about our strengths and knowing what other people's strengths are. You and I have talked about like the Enneagram test and what type we are, and also like the Myers-Briggs 16 personalities test. So what do you remember of those tests about your personality types? Like what can you share?
Yeah, I am probably very sanguine and melancholy. And that's probably not the ones you said, but
that's okay.
Yeah. And so, basically I think that I'm a leader, but I don't like to be the main leader. Like you're the main leader. I am a good under the main leader person, and I like people. And so that probably, I think my heart is for God and then people, and I want everybody to go to heaven. So.
Well, I see that truth lived out in you too. I see that. Now, so in that way, since obviously there was a start to that desire that has grown, that you want everybody to go to heaven. So tell me the story of how you first met Jesus.
I will. Okay, so I'm from Omaha, and I grew up, I'm the oldest, and then I have a brother that's 2 years younger, and we just, we didn't have a lot of money, but we didn't know. I mean, we weren't poor, but we didn't have a lot of money, just a 2-bedroom house, and we had so much fun. I mean, our grandparents were involved in our lives. We laughed a lot. We played outside a lot. It was great. And so I remember thinking, growing up, what would make me happy? And so I wanted to be a cheerleader. So I was. And then after school, and I loved school too. And after school, then I went to college for a year and a half. And I wasn't studying. So my dad said, you better get a job if you're not going to study. So I worked at UPS for 18 and a half years, and I was a receptionist at the district office and then the region. But at the district office, I really wanted to know God and didn't know how to do it. And when I was younger too, I went too fast. When I was younger, my folks did not go to church, but they dropped me off at church. And so when it was confirmation time, my mom said, you don't have to go, but if you want to, you can. And so I did. And then they would just drop me off at church, and then I taught Sunday school, and but I knew I didn't know God the way that I was supposed to. And I remember being in my apartment and calling my friend's mom, and I said, how do you know Jesus? And she said, well, just call your pastor or your priest and they can tell you. So I knew from that she didn't know. Even though I didn't know, I knew she didn't know.
Yes.
And so anyway.
Go with somebody else.
Yeah, because, I went to this, and another friend at UPS had me do, it was called the Bethel Series, and it was a 2-year program of the whole Bible. And I did it for 2 years. So by the time I was 25, I had 4 years of that underneath me. I was really trying to find God.
Yeah, you really had a hunger.
I really had a hunger and a thirst and didn't know how to do it. And then I was always this person that, I wasn't going to do anything until I got married. And I did something that I said I wouldn't do. And so God used that really to humble me, and which was good. And so when I was leaving the district, a guy at the district office, Bruce Stricklet, had just become a Christian, and he was from Omaha, but he was in North Platte, then came back, and he was different. And so isn't that fun? Yeah. And so he asked me, do you want to be in Bible study? So I thought after I had all this stuff here, that I'd go and help him.
Yeah.
And so, which was, so I went, but then I was transferred to the region. And I had the most seniority of any of the hourly and the women there, and they didn't like that. So they weren't very nice to me. And when I came to the Bible study, they all hugged me and they were happy to see me. And so it was really nice to be there. So finally, it was a John study, and we had just the book of John, and it was the Navigators. And there was 2 things that we're going to believe: that God is who he says he is, and that the Bible is true. So that's what we did. So we're going through the Bible study. And so Charlie Johnston was the guy, and he said something about Jesus. And I said, well, how come, and so I'm 26. I said, so how come God hasn't gotten me married yet? And he just was like, and he's just like, whoa. And he said,
out of my pay grade.
Yeah, he was. He said, see that girl over there? She's older than you and she's not married. Go ask her. And so I went over there and I said, how come God hasn't got me married yet? So then she did for me. Are you familiar with the bridge?
Yes.
Okay.
For salvation.
For
to
salvation.
Understand it.
Yes,
okay.
to understand
yes.
it. And so first of all, she said to me, if you were to die tonight, do you know for sure you go to heaven? And I said, well, I would think so after I did all these things for God. And she said, she drew the bridge. Okay, here's you, here's God. You go to church, you love your parents, you're a good worker, but doesn't quite meet the other side. So it's not until you ask Jesus into your heart that you can cross over. And she said, again, do you know if you would go to heaven? And I said, I don't know for sure. And she said, would you like to make sure? And I said I would. So I prayed. This was in a restaurant in South Omaha. So I prayed and I received Christ. And I remember driving down 50th and L Street thinking, what is the difference? I've been in Bible study for 4 years,
That's the big question. And I love you talking about this because there are people listening to this podcast that want to know the difference. So how do you know? No, you're good.
Well, so when I got home, now I've been studying this Bible for 4 years, the whole thing, 2 times. And so I went and I started reading the Bible, and it made sense. And I got it. And so one thing, a girl that was in the district with me, her name is Esther, and she was part-time, and she led me through TMS, which, do you know what that is?
No.
Okay, it's the Navigator's Tropical Memory System.
Okay.
So I learned about 70 or 80 verses, and we did that in a year. And then the cool thing is I'd been there about 2 months, and I remember walking into the break room, and I said to, there was two guys in there, and I said to them, do you guys know anything about this being born again? And Matt there said, yeah, I know. And then the other guy, Joe, said, oh, you can't tell me that there's only one God and there's only one way. And I said, I don't know, Joe. I said, Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life, and no one comes to the Father but by me. But I didn't memorize it. See, God just gave me the words.
Wow, that's really awesome. Like his Spirit
He just did it.
Made it known.
Yeah.
So when you said, I got it, when you just rewinding the conversation a little bit, that's what you meant. That's what you got.
Yes.
You got it, that it's by him alone.
Yes.
Jesus alone.
And nobody else. And not your good works. And not that you try so hard, and not that you're perfect, or not that anything. It's nothing but him alone.
Yeah, I think that's so hard to understand, right? Like they say all religions except Christianity talk about how you try to do good things to be in favor with God, when it's the opposite. As a Christian, we want to do good things because of what he's done for us already, when we understand that Jesus is the only way, the truth, and the life.
And when we are weak, he is strong. Because I didn't know how to answer him.
Yes.
I was a Christian maybe 2 months at the most. And I remember going to my desk and thinking, where did this come from? Seriously, it was just a awe moment for me. Isn't that cool?
That is so cool.
Yeah.
Well, and you started sharing a little bit about what my next question was going to be, and that is, since you met him, what do you do to grow in love with him?
Okay.
So you read the Bible twice before you even had that light bulb aha moment, right?
I did.
So you were doing that, and how did that come into play? And what else did you do? Like, what actions did you take to grow in love in your relationship with him?
Doing the Bethel Series really gave me a foundation. I really knew the Bible in my head, but I did not know the Lord in my heart. And so I started having a daily quiet time, and I would write them down, what God did, and memorizing scripture. I just think that is huge. I just know that it's such a transition, and I am telling you, God uses that, and it was huge. So, and then I do Bible studies, and I love to write verses down. So, I guess.
Ways that you've been able to grow in love with him. Okay. And so also, I'm also curious about, for people who are following Jesus and getting to know him, like, what is something you can think of that was harder about following Jesus than just going the way that most of the world goes?
Okay. So I was 26 when I became a Christian, and I went to the Bill Gothard series. Have you ever heard of that?
I have heard of it.
Okay.
Yes.
So it is a week-long thing, and it was at the Civic Auditorium in downtown Omaha, and I took off work for a week, and I just was hungry. And it was really full. I'm not packed, but a lot of people. And God said in there, he was talking about the umbrella, being, if you're single, under the umbrella of authority. And I felt like God told me to move home with my mom and dad. And so we didn't have a big house. And
how long had it been since you'd lived in their home at this point?
4 or 5 years.
I could imagine this could get hard. Okay.
And that is hard. And so here I have all my furniture. And first of all, I go and I say to my mom and dad, I said, because I wanted them both there, I said, I feel like God wants me to move home with you. What do you think? And my mom said, Deborah, your dad will tell you what to do. My dad said, pack your bags and move home. So I did. And so since it was a little house and my mom was in real estate, we end up moving from there to Elkhorn in Skyline Ranches, and it was a big house. So all of our furniture fit and everything. And my dad, this is interesting, my dad had told God that if God let them move out there, he would go to church with me. Isn't that interesting?
Wow. And you didn't know this before you asked about moving back in? Okay.
And before I moved in too, my mom and I were watching Billy Graham, and he was, talking about, accepting Christ. And I said, "Do you ever do that?" And my mom said, "No." And I said, "We need to get down right now and we need to pray." And she did.
Wow.
I know.
Oh my goodness.
Boom, boom, boom. And so anyway, we moved out there. And at the time, it's called Christ Community Church now, but at the time it was called Omaha Gospel Tabernacle. And so it was on 20th and Douglas Street. So we were 20945 right off of Dodge. So, I mean, it was a long way. And my dad went almost every time that I went.
Wow.
So, and then one of the pastors had told me to ask my dad, did he accept Christ? Because he's seen him raise his hand or something. So, I mean, yeah.
Yeah. So that was hard to
Very
obey
hard.
some of those things, but it's so refreshing to hear the way that you are willing to listen to the details from God, because he promises his Holy Spirit to help with specific details in our life if we're willing to listen and lean into him.
Right.
And I hear you saying that you did that, and then when you heard a prompt from him, you followed it.
I did.
Even if it wasn't comfortable,
wanted,
and then
yeah.
you see the outcome of what God was up to. Sometimes I think how we won't see a lot of the outcome of obedience to Christ until we're on the other side of heaven. And most of it probably. But there's many things that are so encouraging like that, where you were able to see the fruit of your obedience with your parents and their salvation, and I love that.
And my mom died 10 years later. So it was 10 years I would not have had with her. I mean, well, I didn't stay there that long. I was just there for 3 years, but...
That's amazing.
It's cool.
What a cool story. So, has there been any other things that have felt hard about following after Jesus?
Mm-hmm. There have. When my mom died, we had just built a house in Ralston. Josh was born in March, all this in the same year. My mom died that same year, and then we moved to Kearney the next year. And it was extremely hard being new here.
Mm-hmm. And how long have you lived here now?
It'll be 29 years next month.
Okay. All right. Well, you found a great church family.
I did.
To be a part of, and you've made it a great family as well. So as far as community goes, when you got here, and we call our community groups life groups at eFree, and you mentioned groups that you're a part of at the beginning of our conversation, but do you right now belong to a life group?
I do.
You and your husband. And why did you decide to be a part of a life group?
Well, I don't know if I think we probably had a pastor by then, but we did have a church split. And so us that were left, Randy, I'll tell you, when we did have that church divide or whatever you want to call it, Randy had said to me, because I kind of wanted to go to the other church. My husband wanted to stay here. And he said, it's like a marriage, Deb. You just have to go through it. And then Jean Heiser, she said, I really wish you wouldn't go. And for some reason, those two people, when Jim said, no, I want to stay here, that really helped me that I heard from them. And so then they started a study, Randy and Deb. And so they just asked us, and that was just a no-brainer. And
the power of invitation, like personal invitation. And
yes.
You do that all the time. I've seen that too.
Oh, thank you.
That's do. Cool. I love that. I love the way that you go after, Jesus says that we're to be fishers of men and women, and I see you going and doing that all the time. Was there anything that you remember do you remember what it felt like to join a brand new group? Like for maybe the people that are a little scared of trying something like that. Do you remember what that felt like?
It was hard, but it was good. It was hard because I was so needy. I just was, and but I wanted to belong. And so that helped me belong.
And I'm glad your step of faith overpowered your fear of not.
Yeah. It was, but I like being involved, and I like being involved with women just because, I don't know, because I had a strong mom and strong grandma, and I miss them. And so I like that. So Sunrise was really, really good.
And how many years again have you been in Sunrise?
I'll be 29 years.
29 years.
Yeah. It's so fun.
That's some faithfulness right there. And so what would you tell others? Like, I can hear a lot of the reasons from what you just said, but what would you tell others are important reasons to be a part of a group if they're not used to that?
Oh, so for Bible study, when we do Bible study, what's so fun is, so for Sunrise, we're doing, when we're doing a study, all the women have different things that God tells them. Mm-hmm. And so then, when you read the questions and they're saying this and they're saying that, and then we're like, oh, we didn't think of that. Oh, I didn't think of that. Mm-hmm. So it's being in the Word together, and I think it knits you together more than anything that I've ever seen in my life.
Mm-hmm. That unity happens, and we have to be in community to get the unity.
Yes.
That's
yes.
so good. Okay, well, certainly, this year's initiative is about being better together, and we want people to go from being lost in the crowd or feeling like they're lost in the crowd to being known in community, so they can experience the growth that you have experienced and I've experienced in community, and to be able to grow and move on, with the Lord into maturity, into more of the flourishing that He has in mind for us. So, what I guess as a Christian, this is sort of a bonus question I didn't really ask, but how do you find calmness in the middle of chaos when hard things happen?
I have, because you told me to give verses too.
Yes.
Okay, so this one verse I am going to give, because I do have health problems. Mm-hmm. And so I went to a healing seminar thing, mm-hmm. and I was supposed to grab a verse, and this verse is really good. Mm-hmm. And it's Isaiah 54:17. Mm. And it's, no weapon that is formed against you shall prosper. And every tongue that accuses you in judgment, you will condemn. This is the heritage of the servants of the Lord, and their benediction is from me, declares the Lord. I do that, and then I do verses. I do the one that God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. Mm-hmm. And when I do that, I say to God, remember, you said that I tell him back what his word says. And Proverbs 3, 5, and 6 is mine for this year, is trust in the Lord with all your heart and do not lean on your own understanding. In all your ways, acknowledge him, and he will make your path straight. So I'll just say, God, remember, you said, and I'm trusting in you, and I just point it back to him, and then he does it through me. And it's just, it's him. It's not me.
So good. So you renew your mind that way. You dive into the scriptures. You have memorized the scriptures. Mm-hmm. And just back to that, just bathing in what he says.
It is huge.
And that can bring peace. I found that.
Yeah, you did too.
The truth.
Did you ever do Matthew? Do you care if I do one more?
Oh, no.
Okay,
right.
Matthew 11. And Sherry Peterson showed me this one. Mm-hmm. Matthew 11:28 through 30. Come to me, all who are weary and heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you shall find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my load is light. So if you're yoked with Christ, mm-hmm. and you say, let's say you're going off, well, he'll pull you back. And maybe you're doing something you're not supposed to, he'll pull you back. Mm-hmm. Isn't that cool?
That's awesome. You have such a teacher's heart, a mentor's heart, and I love spending time with you, and we certainly are better together.
We are better together.
So I appreciate you. I have one just last question, and that is, what would be a hope that you would have for our church family?
For our church family? I think that we would hunger and thirst for God, and that we would have unity.
Amen, sister.